Hello and welcome to my channel where I'm in the process of learning as I go as I restore a 1965 MG Midget. The front part of the wheel well, or the inner footwell really, is pretty rusted out, and let me show you what I've done to start to remedy that. So what I did is I took an angle grinder and I just cut straight down, straight over. This was basically all rusted out all the way through here. So I've just cut it out, trying to keep it square because it's easier to create the patch panel for it. So I'm gonna have to basically do this probably. This will be one piece that goes here and up. That's gonna be one piece, but let me show you around on the other side how I'm gonna cut it, I think, to get that repair done. So if you look at this piece right here, this is actually a part of this outside flange. So I think, and it's rusted up to here. So I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut this straight across and drill out the spot welds here and here, and then replace this piece just straight across here with this flange. I just don't know if I can get in and weld. There's no place to weld to in there. So I think I'm gonna cut that, and I can basically replace that whole square and get it squared off. So you can see it right here. This part should go straight down, and that's a part of this like wheel well. So I'm gonna weld a piece in right here that'll make that straight. I'm gonna weld a piece in right here that'll make that straight down, and then that will give me something to attach to on this other side, because see, that should be sticking out all the way out to here. So then when I put this piece in, it's got something to attach to. And there's a couple little rust holes in there that I'll try to fill in too. So you can see what I did is I just traced it out with cardboard. So I'm gonna cut that out of metal, and I'm just gonna weld it on there and fill in a couple of those little rust holes. Okay, so I welded this piece in. When I go to put this piece over the top, this little square, it's gonna go over the top of it with a flange on top of it, sticking out on this side. I'll put a couple holes in it and spot weld it to that piece. So now it gives me something I can actually weld to. And then I can go ahead and put the big piece down through here. So this doesn't have to be perfect because it's gonna get covered up with this piece that's gonna go over the top of it. I got a couple little holes, and they're just, I didn't grind them down far enough to have the weld not blow through. So once I get down to this point, then I'll clean that off and fill those spots in later. For the piece that I'm gonna weld in, typically what I do is just the same thing as I did on the little piece I already showed you that I weld in. Is I just take a piece of cardboard, trace it. It tells me where I need to put the bend in it, and then I trace that out on the piece of sheet metal, cut it and bend it. And so now I've got it fitted in, and I'll show you where it's fitted in, and I'm ready to put a couple of welds in it to hold it. So here's my piece of metal. It's got it clamped in there to weld, and I already drilled 2 holes in it that I'll use to spot weld it to the piece that's behind it. And then I got the length, I left it a little long because I can always grind it down to match it up to the piece that's above it. So I'm gonna go ahead and weld that in and get it all attached and then grind it all smooth. Okay, so I got this piece welded in, and now I'm ready to really focus on that whole piece under the wheel well right here. So that's gonna be a huge piece. I'm gonna have to do some measurements to figure out how far that thing's supposed to stick out. And create a template, cut it out, and see if I can get it welded in. So here's what I'm doing in order to get the height of this right. And I thought about doing this in a couple of pieces, but I thought it was worth a shot, maybe trying to do it in one, just because I think maybe it would have a little bit more strength. So basically what I did is I took a square and attached it to the rail so that it's square and flat. And then I took another square and attached it to this inside flange and let it go up and give me kind of a square piece. And then I stuck my piece of cardboard, slid it in here, and traced it from the inside. Now the thing is, I'm actually gonna let it stick up a little bit higher because I think the floor has a lip that sticks up, and I think it bumps right up against that. But I'm gonna go with the old, you can make it shorter, but you can't make it longer, and go that route. So I'm gonna do that. So I took my piece of cardboard and I've got it traced out with this little part here. So I'm gonna undo my squares, check and see how it looks. And if I think it's right, I'll put it on a piece of sheet metal, trace it out and cut it, and then see if the sheet metal fits. So I have my template cut out in cardboard. Now, again, I've got the car on a rotisserie, so I can literally just flip the whole thing over and work really easily and have access to it. So what I decided to do on this is I went ahead and created a little tab right here. So, and I'll do that with the sheet metal too, because I'll be able to drill a hole and spot weld it to the inside of that rail, which will actually make it a little bit stronger, because I think it's going to be really difficult to get in and weld that joint. So that's what I'm thinking of right now is I created a little tab. I'll be able to spot weld it there, and it'll give me some stability, because obviously it's going to be spot welded all along. So that's my template. I'm going to be able to take that out and trace it onto my piece of sheet metal and cut it, get it all clamped in and fit, and then it's just a matter of welding it in place. So this was a long day of, once I had the cardboard template figured out, you would think you can just cut that on the piece of sheet metal and put it right in, but it just doesn't work that way. It's fitting it, refitting it until you get it to the place that you want it to be, and then clamp it all in place and start welding it. So still tough on the welder, just because some of that metal is rusted and thin and weak, and so of the original metal, so it tends to blow through if you're not too careful. But I'll show you what it looks like as far as how far I've got it completed now. So here's the piece that I welded in, and I've really gone through it a couple of times. There's no real pinholes. You see light coming through on these three. Those are actually screw holes that are supposed to be there. So at this point, I feel like I've got it in a good place, and I'll start working on being able to put the floor in and the diagonal piece after I take what's left of this exterior or inner sill